In my previous life, the Ice Age arrived, and I lay on a cold bed, waiting for my husband to get the airdrop supplies, but I never saw him return, and finally died on the bed without any warmth due to the power outage. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned 3 months before the disaster, and I suddenly realized that I could hear everyone's thoughts. It turned out my husband was not really going to get the supplies. I was still in the despair of breathing in the cold air. When suddenly I felt warmth, when I opened my eyes, everything had returned to before the disaster. I was at home, covered with a light blanket and with the air conditioning on. It was August, and this year's weather was unusually hot. I checked my phone and found that the time had gone back to 3 months before the disaster, which was 6 months before I died. "Honey, you're awake." My husband, who was still alive, was by my side. Suddenly, another voice spoke. "Damn, why did I wake up so early? It's a bummer, but I need to delete the messages with Nora quickly." Well, she never checks my phone anyway. I'm a bit reluctant to delete the picture, though. I'll think about it later. I looked at my husband, who hadn't moved his mouth, and was terrified, but the voice was definitely my husband's, just a bit more ethereal than normal. Husband, I called out to him, trembling. What's wrong? Are you hungry? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you." Then that voice of nothingness came again. "Damn it, I have to get up and cook for her. That damn woman is so troublesome. If it wasn't for those few houses, who would bother to take care of her?" I was still confused. What was that voice? What exactly happened? I was still in the cold of death, and the sudden events left me lost and confused. My name is Briar, and I have been married to my husband Thor for 3 years, 3 years ago. My parents strongly opposed it because Thor is a typical Phoenix man, but his caring and attention made me stubbornly and devotedly secretly marry him. My parents run a supermarket and have several chain stores. Our family is quite well off. Plus, my parents had the foresight to buy several houses before the housing prices rose, and with the rapid increase in property values, our family's wealth easily exceeded 10 million. My parents were very angry about my secret marriage, but they couldn't do anything about it. They only transferred a small house in the city to my name. I also kept a watchful eye and didn't tell my husband about the properties under my parents' names. I currently work as a PM project manager at an internet company. I was lucky to be involved in projects that had good responses, and I have built some connections. Thor works at an insurance company as a salesperson, specializing in private portfolio insurance, investment, and financial planning for people with assets. In recent years, he has made a lot of money with my introduction. Our small life is going well, and my parents have gradually let go of their grudge and started to accept us. I also have a very good girlfriend, Nora. We were classmates in college. Actually, she and my husband Thor were both my college classmates. We have known each other for almost 10 years. But in the previous life, 3 months later, on November 15th, the temperature dropped rapidly. Within just 2 or 3 days, the whole world was frozen, followed by blizzards and extreme weather, which destroyed all transportation. Our city became completely silent in an instant. I'm glad I felt something was wrong from the beginning, and I rushed back to my parents' house, which is in the neighborhood next to one of their supermarkets. Then we desperately moved everything we could take back home. But we still attracted attention, and many thugs nearby started looting supplies. The supermarket was completely ransacked. Fortunately, we managed to take back some supplies and got home. However, the supplies were limited, and soon there was no water or electricity. With so many people, the supplies quickly became insufficient. Fortunately, the country was actively providing relief, but due to destroyed transportation, they could only drop supplies by air. Many supplies were scattered throughout the city at that time. I also had a cold, and my parents worried about me, so they told me to rest at home. They went out to look for supplies with Thor and the other 3 people. Before leaving, my mom secretly gave me a piece of chocolate and told me to keep it. Unfortunately, only Thor came back. He cried and said that he had lost track of my parents. There were too many people, and it was impossible to find them. I waited anxiously for several days, but my parents did not return. I was heartbroken, but I had no choice. Without food, my body temperature dropped rapidly. Thor said he had to go out again to find a way. He asked me if I had no food left at all. He was going to try his luck again. I was worried, but we couldn't just starve together. I gave him all the warm clothes I had and finally handed him the chocolate my mom gave me, hoping it would help him regain some strength. But he didn't come back even after a day and a night. My cold got worse, and with no food, I starved to death at home. This time, I woke up and was given a second chance by heaven. I must seize this opportunity and prepare well to survive. But what was that strange sound? I was still confused. "Honey, I'm sorry I can't cook for you. A client just changed the time, and I have to leave quickly. Just order something you want to eat." Thor's voice came from the bathroom, followed by that eerie voice. Got it. This woman is still so easy to fool. Who would want to cook for her? I have to go find Nora quickly. Damn, her several selfies are so amazing. I was shocked. Those eerie voices just now. Was this his real intention? And him and Nora, my husband and my best friend. Such a ridiculous plot. I shook my head, convinced that it was just a hallucination from my recent rebirth. The sound of the door closing quickly echoed, and I was still a bit dazed sitting on the bed. After getting up and washing my face, I still had no appetite. I kept thinking about the apocalypse 3 months from now and how to get through this disaster. I still need to go home, but I need to reinforce the security at home, deal with heating and stockpiling supplies. I need to sort it out. Anyway, there's still 3 months. I'll plan it out first. No need to rush. I went to work in a daze, and I confirmed one thing. I can hear everyone's thoughts, and as soon as I want to listen, I can hear their true inner thoughts. For example, the security guard at the door was singing Apple Song all day, and almost all my colleagues were complaining about Cricket and his colleague. For example, I found out that the boss indeed has an extramarital affair, but it's not with his assistant girl, although I had gossiped with colleagues many times and uncovered many clues about them. I never had solid proof, but when I heard the boss, who was supposedly looking at my version progress in his office, thinking about telling his wife he would work overtime and go to have sex with the head of the sales department, I was completely shocked, because the head of the sales department is a man. Oh my god, the feeling of having so many secrets to keep is too stifling. I was immersed in this stifling feeling and was about to tell my husband when Chinyu came. I suddenly remembered that I had heard my husband's thoughts that morning, and that's when I came to my senses. If hearing thoughts is real, then I don't want to think about it, but Chinyu's thoughts forced me to painfully accept the reality. I was dazed, and after a few days, by listening to her and Thor's insincere words, as well as my own deliberate recollections, I pieced together everything. Some of the doubts from the previous life were also clarified. Why did Thor pursue me back in college, and everything he did was exactly on my spot? The only person who truly understood me was Nora. It turns out they were high school classmates and had been together since then. Myself and Thor were in the same school but different majors, but our encounters on the playground and the heroic rescue were all orchestrated by them. The reason was that Nora, who was in the same dormitory, noticed that I came from a wealthy family with more luxurious living than others, and had evil intentions. She had her boyfriend pretend to pursue me, then marry me, and wait for the right moment to create an accident so that he could get my inheritance. How cunning the plan was. They are so patient. Let me count. From the time we met in college, it's already been 7 years, and they have planned for 7 years and implemented it for 7 years. Over these 7 years, I have had many arguments with Thor, and I always went to Nora to cry about it. Afterwards, Thor could precisely correct all my dislikes about him and meet all my emotional needs. Sometimes my parents were extremely extreme, forcing me to break up with him, but I managed to hold on. I asked myself why I was so devoted to him, but I don't know. I just felt he was too good to me, and I couldn't let him down. Now I think it was actually their collaboration, making all my dissatisfaction see his changes, making me think his love and care for me were unmatched, making me unable to refuse. Now I finally understand. Everything was using my preferences and my weaknesses, carefully prepared for me as sweetened honey. It's so despicable. They schemed against me, using me to recommend Nora to join the company. She used me to cover up at work, using me to steadily establish herself, Thor more so, using my network to make a fortune, while the debts I owed had to be repaid by me. Their plan finally even wanted my life. The disappearance of my parents in the previous life is worth investigating. Now that I have figured all this out, I am shaking with hatred. So the heavens must have pitied me, giving me another chance, and also giving me the ability to hear other people's thoughts, which is to let me see through everything. Alright, I will definitely take revenge with my own hands. I need to carefully plan. I will use the upcoming disasters to make these two pay everything. No, pay even more. The me who wants to understand everything is desperate to see my parents. In the previous life, because of Thor, I often argued with my parents and rarely went home. Now I think I was really stupid. As soon as I got off work, I drove back to my parents' house. My mom opened the door, and I felt like I hadn't seen them for several centuries. I hugged my mom and burst into tears. I heard my mom's thoughts, desperately thinking, what's wrong with the child? What did she suffer? My dad was ready to fight, thinking, Thor, it must be him who bullied my daughter. I'll make him pay. My heart felt warm. My family, my parents, are truly my last refuge. I still need to stand with my parents. My first step in the revenge plan is to build our own fortress with them. After calming down, I told my parents everything. They just stood there, looking at each other, not daring to speak. After all, this apocalyptic rebirth and hearing thoughts stuff was too absurd. Anyone would think I was crazy. I heard my parents' thoughts and couldn't help but laugh out loud. My mom was thinking, oh no, Briar is crazy. I need to go to Peking University 6th Hospital and make an appointment. I need an expert. My dad was thinking, what does that mean? Has my daughter gone crazy? Well, if she is, it's okay. At least she's not with that Thor guy anymore. I'll take care of her if she is. I felt both angry and amused. To make them believe, I told them their thoughts. My parents were shocked for a long time and did many tests before finally believing me. My dad smiled and asked me, can I go meet the new supplier with you and see what his bottom line is? My dad is so cunning. I said there's only 3 months until the end of the ice age, so we shouldn't restock anymore. We should think about how to survive in such weather. Also, I had discussed with my parents, and they wouldn't go to meet Thor and Nora. I have my own arrangements for them. I don't want them to go, because I'm afraid their acting skills aren't good enough to hold back, especially my dad, who seems like he's about to punch Thor at any moment. My mom has always been ing Thor and my best friend Nora. I didn't know about their dirty dealings before, and my mom used to be very nice to Nora, often buying her clothes and buying 2 sets. Now it's really like feeding a dog. They're not even worth it anymore. These years of scheming, the blood debt from the previous life, can't be repaid by just a beating. I went back to the company, and we had an outsourcing project that needed a project schedule manager. The job required me to stay at another company for a while, and since that company was in the suburbs, the company had been trying to mobilize people for a long time but no one was willing to go. The project was put on hold. I applied to the boss early on, and he stood up excitedly, saying I was the company's savior. The project progress there was extremely slow, and the costs were very high. If it continued like this, the project would fail, and the previous investments would be wasted. The boss promised me additional subsidies and would give me credit for my performance. I smiled, but all these things would be meaningless when the end of the world came. The reason I continued working instead of quitting was to keep Nora and Thor under control and start my plan that night. I argued with Thor for a long time about the boss, saying I was going to work in the suburbs, where there was a dormitory, and I would live there. Thor said he was reluctant to part, and joined me in cursing the boss, but he was secretly delighted, already thinking about how to bring Nora to his house once I left. I held back my nausea and packed my things and left. In the next month, my dad secretly sold a few houses and bought a 2-story villa with 2 basements in the mountains in the west of the city. Since he had been running a supermarket for many years, he was more familiar with security and renovation than me. First, he tore down the original fence and rebuilt it with explosion-proof materials like rebar. Then he replaced the doors and windows with bulletproof glass and added security bars. Then he reinforced the roof and installed solar panels. He was afraid it wasn't enough, so he also installed solar panels and batteries in the yard, and built an adjustable rain canopy. My mom was in charge of stockpiling supplies. My mom, who used to be in charge of ordering and shelving in the supermarket, went back to her old job and was really skilled at it. She arranged the shelves in the villa and clearly and meticulously planned what to put in each room. She was much better than me. A clumsy person, I was in charge of buying cold weather clothes, blankets, and cold briquettes online. To avoid suspicion, we bought them in the same neighborhood where my parents lived, and then my dad would drive his truck at night to move them to the villa in the west of the city. During this time, I secretly returned to my home during the day and installed a few tiny cameras powered by batteries, recording their shameful behavior clearly. I originally planned to release these videos to embarrass them and let the rest be handled by the end of the Ice Age, but this weekend when I went home, I changed my mind because I accidentally found out that Thor and Nora were also stockpiling supplies. Did they find out something, or was it a coincidence? These days I've been in the suburbs, and I need to go back to the company for the weekly meeting on Friday. When I went to the meeting, I found something unusual. Nora's inner voice told me that she had been planning how to stockpile supplies, even considering causing an accident to kill me, then taking over my house to stockpile. Did she know about the end of the world? But her mind was constantly thinking about buying slow-acting poison and how to poison me. I decided to find the answer from Thor. After work, Thor hadn't come back yet. I knew the two of them were going to conspire. A while later, he came back, speaking cliched love words. In the past, I used to enjoy them, but now I felt disgusted by his evil thoughts. I forced myself to play along. What a golden eagle, 100 flowers, and flying heaven awards we should get. Through inner voice, I gradually found out they did know about the coming disaster, but not like me. I was reborn. Instead, Thor recently met with several influential rich people, and they were all stockpiling supplies. Clever as he is, he sensed something unusual after some inquiries. He only vaguely knew that a severe cold disaster was about to come to the world, about a few months later, but he still didn't know the specifics. Originally, I planned to quietly disappear before the disaster, not telling them, leaving them to survive on their own. But now, They already know about the disaster and have started stockpiling supplies. This could mean they might survive the disaster. The poison, colchicine, that they want to kill me with is now in this scumbag's bag. I must think carefully about what to do next. I was lost in thought. What are you thinking about, dear? Thor came over with a glass of water. I heard Thor's inner voice. No, I can't let her die first. If she dies first, I won't be able to inherit her parents' estate. I must find a way to deal with her parents first. The evil voice made me feel sick. I finally understood why my parents never came back after going out in my previous life. My parents had made complete preparations. And with their personality, they could have safely escaped. It was him who made sure my parents died, so that I could inherit their estate, and then he could get all our family's property when I died. I realized he must have done something to my parents. In my previous life, I clearly remember my father's scarf was on his neck, and he told me that I must have been hallucinating from hunger. Now I'm sure that in my previous life, he definitely murdered my parents. Grief. But there's no time for me to grieve. I said I've been too tired lately and feel unwell. I used that as an excuse to go to sleep. Lying in bed, I kept hearing his thoughts about planning to tamper with my dad's car. I knew I couldn't continue like this, but I couldn't guard him 24/7. I thought about it and came up with a rough plan. The next day, I went back home and discussed with my parents before returning to the company and quitting my job. Before quitting, I happened to meet the procurement officer who was making plans for the employees' benefits during the National Day holiday. I couldn't resist suggesting to Celeste, the procurement officer, whether we should give some rice, flour, cooking oil, or cold weather supplies this year. As a friend in the Meteorological Bureau said it would be a severe winter, Celeste was doubtful but said she would think about it and report to the boss. When I told the boss I was quitting, he was very reluctant and said I didn't have to go on the overseas assignment if I didn't want to. I declined, because survival was more important in the face of disaster. Before leaving, I also reminded the boss that a cold snap was coming and suggested providing some cold weather supplies as a benefit. I could only help them this far. Nora ran to me and asked what was wrong. I heard her thoughts, which were filled with worry about whether I had found out something, and she was very nervous. I pretended to be relaxed and told her that I was just too exhausted from traveling lately and wanted to take some time off. Also, my parents had always wanted to go abroad for a trip, and this time they wanted me to be their interpreter, so I decided to go. I also pretended to be reluctant and said I didn't know how to tell Thor yet. Nora was very surprised and couldn't figure it out. I knew she would tell Thor about this soon. I didn't want to play along anymore. And every second of being with her made me disgusted. I made an excuse about feeling unwell, quickly packed up at the company, and went home directly. I went directly to my parents' house and started carrying out my plan. Thor kept calling me, but I didn't answer any of them, until the evening. After I had finished eating my mom's braised pork ribs at home, I finally replied to his WeChat message lazily. I'm sorry, Thor. I didn't know how to tell you. My parents want to go on a trip abroad, and I'm not comfortable with that. They need a translator, and I'm also very tired from work, so I just want to rest and accompany them. He replied to me soon. Briar, you can tell me anything. I will support whatever you do, wherever you are. I will go find you. I was at my parents' house, but you still shouldn't come. You know my parents, they won't give you a good face, and I'll be back tomorrow. After saying that, I didn't respond anymore, but I secretly turned on the home surveillance. I secretly checked my phone to watch the surveillance. I saw Thor calling Nora. Nora was probably asking to just find a way to poison me, but Thor disagreed, and advised that they should first deal with my parents so they could get all the property and the supermarket. Nora was convinced, and even decided to go herself to meet my parents. It seems Nora isn't that smart, obviously. In the entire plan, Thor wanted to keep himself completely clean. Then he hung up the phone, and not long after, Nora arrived at my house. The two of them started touching each other. It seemed they had been there before. Thinking about them having sex on my bed made me feel sick. I edited the video, saved it, and then went to sleep, pretending I didn't see anything. The next morning, Thor and Nora arrived at my parents' house. I was afraid my parents might expose the secret, so I made them go out shopping early. Dear, whatever happened, you can tell me. Thor pretended to be eager and pulled my hand, asking. Nora also chimed in, as such scenes of arguing with him had happened too many times before. I just suddenly felt that life was a bit dull. Work was also not going well, and I intentionally stammered. I have depression. After saying that, I took out a prepared fake diagnosis certificate, stating severe depression and severe anxiety. I could hear their thoughts, both saying, oh, it's depression, that's why I've been acting strangely lately. Then I heard Thor thinking, this is great, find a way to worsen her symptoms, and then I won't even have to do anything. No, they are going abroad. It's going to be a disaster soon, although I don't know exactly what it is. But it must be something big. Considering those rich people are making such a big fuss about it, they are going abroad. I hope they die out there. That would be too convenient. I couldn't help but glance at Thor, and his expression didn't change at all while he was thinking these things, still as warm and caring as ever. So that's how I was deceived by him before. At that moment, my parents suddenly came back. Why did my parents come back early? Not according to the plan of returning in the afternoon. I couldn't help but feel worried. When my mom saw them, she immediately shouted, "You bastard, is it you who made my daughter sick? Did you bully her?" My dad also cursed and was ready to punch Thor. Oh my, they came back to help me. I thought to myself, my parents' acting is pretty good. Thor was stunned, and Nora was also at a loss. Instinctively stepping back, I pretended to shout, No, you misunderstood. There's nothing like that." At that moment, my dad had already rushed over, and I pretended to stop him by pulling him. My dad turned around and kept winking at me, and I held back my laughter. My dad punched him in the eye, followed by several more punches and kicks. Thor didn't dare to fight back and couldn't defend himself, as my mom had grabbed him tightly. Nora was on the side, not daring to come forward. I saw that the beating was enough, and I hurriedly said, "Thor and Nora, you two should leave first. I can't stop my parents." Then I secretly pulled my mom's sleeve to signal that it was enough, and my mom finally let go, and the two of them ran away in a panic. When they left, I closed the door and turned around to see my parents also holding back laughter, and the three of us burst into laughter at the same time. It was satisfying. My dad rubbed his fists and said, "I've wanted to beat this bastard for a long time." The first day I saw him, I knew he wasn't a good guy, and that Nora, if she wasn't a woman, I would have given her a couple of slaps too. My mom, worried, took my dad's hand and said, "You should be careful, you're already old." Then she laughed and said, "But it was indeed satisfying. Nora was such a quiet girl, and I treated her so well." I felt nostalgic when I said that. From university, we were in the same dorm, spending countless sleepless nights chatting in the corridor. I never expected that she had such ulterior motives. Once people are consumed by desire, everything becomes fake, right? Later, I messaged them again, saying that I would go abroad with my parents to take a break, and it might help, but this time, it would take a long time, and my parents had arranged a 6-month trip. They comforted me to take care of my health and said we could talk about it when we came back. I knew they were hoping that both I and my parents would die in some apocalyptic disaster overseas. Then my dad arranged his business. He stocked up a lot of rice, flour, cooking oil, instant food, and warm blankets and electric heaters at cost price in his supermarket. He was constantly losing money on promotions, hoping that everyone would stock up some supplies. I also posted a lot of messages online, but I only got cold mockery and disbelief. Any posts that gained attention were quickly deleted. My mom told everyone in the family groups to stock up on supplies, but she was mocked by relatives and friends for spreading rumors. In a fit of anger, my mom cursed them and left the group. In recent years, we've made some money, and these relatives have started speaking in a sneaky and sarcastic way. They've been gossiping about us behind our backs, and my mom had long wanted to give them a piece of her mind. Then we kept busy building our own doomsday villa. Soon, the National Day holiday came, and we officially moved into the villa. It was located near the suburbs, where there were few people. The villa area was quiet, with mostly single-family homes that only came back occasionally, and the occupancy rate was not high. Also, most of the people here were businessmen, and the trucks coming and going to deliver supplies didn't stand out at all. The villa had 3 floors above ground and 2 below. Originally, the second basement had a swimming pool, which my mom filled with rice, flour, cooking oil, and various supplies. My mom also said to me, "The swimming pool is great, it's waterproof, so we don't need to do extra moisture proofing." The basement level is our living room in case the temperature gets too low. It has a bathroom and a kitchen, and 2 rooms were made for us to live in. Then, coal briquettes and other items are stored in the hall. Multiple exhaust pipes were specially installed. A fireplace was also built, intended for heating. The upper floor is entirely used for storing supplies. There are dozens of large freezers filled with pre-portioned frozen meat. My mom used supermarket shelves to categorize and arrange all the goods in the upper floor's living room, corridor, and rooms. She divided them into daily necessities area, instant food area, snack area, beverage area, etc., and also prepared a medical area with medicines. Being a supermarket businessperson, she even prepared shopping carts and baskets, making it convenient to collect supplies every time. My dad was moved to tears, holding my mom's hand and saying, "It's been more than 30 years. When we just started our supermarket, I was responsible for the supply chain, and you were in charge of restocking. Every time the goods arrived, they were piled up like a mountain, and you would organize them neatly, one by one, like an ant carrying things." Our supermarket gradually grew to where it is today. I also felt moved. My parents have supported each other through all the hardships, and now we are all together as a family. We will definitely get through this crisis. My dad is old now, and I need to take responsibility for our family. I bought fitness equipment and do daily workouts. I hope to be able to protect myself and my family when the apocalypse comes. Under my guidance, my parents also started to exercise actively. My mom set up many planting boxes and installed simulated sunlight lamps, preparing to grow vegetables indoors so that we can have fresh vegetables to eat. My dad also bought a diesel generator and 30 barrels of diesel to ensure power supply, because he was afraid that when the power went out, the solar power would not be enough. I also installed a complete set of surveillance equipment in the villa to ensure the safety of our home during this time. I have been continuously monitoring the movements of Thor and Nora. They basically live in my house every day, and it seems they want to stock up in my house to get through the disaster, but I had already secretly transferred all the money from our shared account. Thor got angry and called me, and I said that the cost abroad was too high and I didn't answer. He kept messaging me, asking why I had no money. I told him I used it for a financial product, which would be safe in half a year. He was very worried, but there was nothing he could do. Then I turned on the surveillance and saw him arguing with Nora at home. Nora blamed him for not wanting to spend money to stock up, and Thor said he really had invested the money in financial products. The two of them were arguing fiercely. I was eating chips, watching them argue, and felt very good. Later, Thor finally calmed Nora down. I must say, when it comes to soothing women, Thor has some skills. Then, in the following days, I saw them bringing things back and forth to my house. Most of what they bought were convenience foods, and many boxes of water and drinks, as well as some small space heaters, which suggests they already know it will be extremely cold. I thought about it and had an idea in my mind. Gradually, the day when the previous world's freezing apocalypse arrived was getting closer, and it was already November. I told Thor on WeChat that we were still in Country X and would need 2 more months to return. He said it was fine, telling me not to worry about the time, to have a good time and enjoy myself more to ease my mind. He was probably afraid that I would come back too early. My parents and I felt safe at home. Looking at the stockpiled supplies filled us with a sense of security. However, because we had too much food stored at home, there were already mice. Fortunately, my mom was smart and took in 2 stray cats. One was a big orange cat named Jojo, and the other was a tabby cat named Coco. With Jojo and Coco protecting us, our problem of food being eaten by mice was resolved. As a result, my mom bought a large amount of pet supplies, including cat food, cat litter, and cat toys, and she would often pet the cats. On November 15th, it started to snow. Everything was exactly the same as the previous life. I cut off contact with Thor, only occasionally checking what they were doing through the surveillance. They had indeed moved into my house and were preparing to stay there to get through the freezing disaster. They didn't know that there was a big surprise waiting for them. The snow changed from small flakes to large, heavy snowflakes, and by night it turned into big chunks of snow falling heavily to the ground. The temperature also dropped sharply, from originally around 10 degrees to -5 or 6 degrees at midnight, and then to -30 degrees the next day, at noon the next day. The snow stopped, but the temperature dropped even lower. The wind started to blow stronger and stronger. The country issued a disaster warning, saying that a large-scale blizzard would hit the whole country, and it was unclear how long it would last. It called on people to stock up. As a result, all supermarkets and vegetable markets were emptied. My father gave his employees a lot of supplies and encouraged those on leave to come back to work to help maintain the supermarket's order and promote the sale of the supermarket's goods. For the next 3 days, the temperature continued to drop. Soon it reached -50 degrees. The wind blew without end. Soon, the blizzard came, covering the sky and the earth with wind and snow. Trains and planes were all suspended, and there were many traffic accidents on the highways. As a result, all highways were urgently sealed off, turning every city into an island. The city roads were also eroded by the heavy snow, making it impossible to move forward. Through the surveillance, I saw Thor and Nora using the air conditioner and electric heaters, eating instant noodles and some pre-made food from the fridge, and they were quite comfortable. I sneered, and soon you would pay the price for your actions. We have all temporarily moved to the upper floor, with both the air conditioner and electric heater running, and the room temperature is 25.6 degrees, very comfortable. Mom cooked a whole table of dishes, saying that it was a good start for our upcoming disaster life. Dad even opened a bottle of alcohol, which Mom had strictly prohibited from happening again, because if someone gets sick due to alcoholism, there would be no medical care available now. And maintaining good health relies on good living habits. It won't happen again. Whatever the wife says goes, Dad patted his chest and promised, according to memories from the previous life, the power would start to cut off intermittently after a week, and completely cut off after 2 weeks. That would be the real disaster. Now everyone has air conditioners and electric heaters, but they don't yet know the danger that is coming. However, many people have already started to prepare in advance, rushing to buy coal, alcohol, and kerosene, which can be used for heating. Gradually, everyone began to feel the danger, and almost all goods were sold out after a week, due to a surge in electricity demand, plus a sudden drop in temperature and frozen water. The efficiency of the previous solar power stations and hydroelectric power stations dropped significantly. The country decided to implement intermittent power supply. Our family's solar panels can support all the lighting and charging of electronic devices such as mobile phones. If the temperature drops, we will light the stove, and the whole family will gather together to chat, read books, and use mobile phones. My parents keep telling stories about the past hardships, which I have heard so many times that I'm almost tired of hearing them. The disaster has already arrived for a week. I think the time is about right. I turned on my phone to check the surveillance, and the pinhole cameras in my house are powered by batteries, so they are not affected. I saw that Thor's supplies had already eaten a few boxes of food. Then, when they opened a new box of instant noodles, both of them looked at each other in shock, because there was not a single pack of instant noodles inside. To be exact, there was nothing edible at all. It was filled with waste paper, foam, and stones, but no food. I sent a WeChat message to Thor. "How's it going?" Surprised, unexpected. He sent me a voice message screaming, "Briar, it's you who did this. Did you switch my supplies?" I watched on the monitor as they crazily opened box after box of items, but the boxes underneath looked intact, yet everything inside had vanished, replaced with foam stones and other garbage. Before I discovered they were stockpiling, I had figured out their routines and had my father's supermarket employees replace their stockpiled goods with garbage when they weren't home. The water was even replaced with empty bottles. The real food had already been given to the employees who helped me. When I told my parents about this plan, my dad clapped his thighs and said, "Hi, very clever." Then he said, "This is my daughter's house, my daughter's home, my daughter told us to do it, and it's not illegal." He helped me find a few experienced supermarket packers, and I told them that my husband was having an affair and the two of them were planning to start a business, and also that they had taken over my house. The employees were outraged and immediately promised me they would not be able to tell the difference, and even the weight could be simulated almost perfectly. They thought they had stockpiled a whole house of supplies, but only the top layer had real supplies. To prevent them from discovering early, everything else had already been replaced with garbage. After a while, the two of them calmed down. Thor sent me a WeChat message, "Briar, I'm sincere to you. Have you been deceived by someone? I just found out about the disaster, so I stockpiled some supplies. No one knew if this was real or not before it happened. It was too absurd. I didn't tell you because I was afraid it would affect your condition. I was hoping to take a chance and didn't tell you. I even prepared a wedding gift for you. Where did you hide the supplies? Don't play around anymore." Okay, at this point, this scumbag was still pretending. Supplies. I already distributed them to the employees who helped me. Saving them is better than feeding these two heartless people. I said nothing and quietly sent over the screenshots of the video I had taken earlier. After a long time, Thor asked, "When did you find out? How did you find out?" I replied, "You've been scheming against me since university, and I was blind to be deceived by these two scumbags for so long. You also wanted to scheme against my parents. Now it's your turn to pay the price. Are you cold, hungry? Is the stone tasty?" Through the surveillance, I saw them sitting on the ground in despair. Later, Thor found a pinhole surveillance camera from the photo I sent him, but he didn't know there were many more such cameras. I could still watch them go crazy on my phone. Time quickly reached the second week, and a nationwide power outage occurred. We were no exception. Many people had no supplies left at home, and the city distributed emergency survival supplies issued by the state. However, due to the difficulty of transportation between cities, the city's supplies were limited, and the distributed supplies were just a drop in the bucket. Many people went out on the streets, started looting supermarkets for leftovers. Some even began to steal and rob. Now, the police had difficulty responding, and the whole city was in chaos under the pressure of cold and hunger. My mom cried while watching the news. This was the city they had worked hard for all their lives, the home they longed for. My dad bit his lip and arranged for people to distribute all the supermarket storage to the employees, letting them take the trucks to collect them. These were all his brothers who had worked with him, and he couldn't bear to see them suffer, but I told my dad to arrange it secretly at night, and asked everyone not to make a big deal about it. Otherwise it would attract attention and bring trouble. My father followed the advice, and his brothers had some security, which finally made him feel a bit more at ease. Many employees were also extremely grateful, because in this situation, distributing supplies was more precious than anything else. For the past few days, I've been checking the surveillance and saw that Thor and his group went out a few times, bringing back some supplies. From their conversation, I learned that they got them by joining a group in a scramble. They came back with injuries, and they kept cursing me at home, but it didn't help at all. I saw that they were out of supplies again, and they hadn't eaten for almost 2 days, warming themselves at home by burning cardboard boxes. At this moment, I sent them the picture of my hot pot meal when his phone still had power. He got so angry that he jumped up. He sent me a lot of vicious words, but what could he do? Who is holding the supplies? Would definitely live longer and be more comfortable than him, but this vicious person actually forwarded the picture of me eating hot pot to the neighborhood group. In an instant, the group went into chaos, and with Thor's incitement, everyone started attacking me for hoarding food and not caring about others. I took the opportunity to say, "It's a misunderstanding. My husband and his mistress have taken over my house, and I've been forced out. The picture he sent is fake. It's an old photo of mine. Now I'm almost freezing to death at my parents' house." Then I sent the video of them being scandalous, including kissing at the door, on the sofa, and in bed. Many people in the neighborhood knew us, and they confirmed that it was my husband who was cheating. Then I sent the photos of him hoarding supplies, including moving them at the door and piling them up at home. The neighborhood group went into chaos again, and the direction of the discussion changed, with people now attacking Thor for his bad character, immoral behavior, and for planning to take advantage of the disaster to get rid of me and my parents in advance. At this point, the scumbag had no way to defend himself. I guess he wanted to release our chat records to defend himself. However, I had already thought ahead, so I was very careful when chatting with him, and every sentence contained information that was against him. He couldn't take a full screenshot, and the censored images would be taken out of context and couldn't convince anyone. He was almost drowned in the public condemnation, and I enjoyed seeing him burn himself. Nora, I can't let her off either. I directly sent the scandalous videos of them to the company group, the university group, and the supplies hoarding group. The groups all exploded in chaos. I cried and told everyone that Thor was cheating with my best friend Nora, and that he had planned and used the disaster to get rid of me and my parents. I exaggerated and told the story of how he only cared about himself by hoarding supplies. At this point, Thor became wise and left the groups. Public condemnation might not be effective. It's time to add another spark of fire. I took a deep breath and sent the content I had already prepared in the neighborhood group. I incited everyone to come to my house to take the supplies, saying I was deceived and trapped outside and couldn't return. It's better to share them with the people in the group than let those 2 scumbags take them. I said the supplies that the scumbag bought also count as our joint property, and I have the right to dispose of them. I'm giving them to everyone now, so just come to take them. I've changed the door lock password to 123456, and anyone can come in. First come, first served. As soon as I sent it, the group became silent. Through the monitor, I saw Thor smashing his phone in frustration. It was a great satisfaction. Then he was scrambling to pick up the phone, trying to change the lock password, but the door was linked to my main number, and I directly removed his user permissions, so he couldn't change it. When he found out, he was visibly panicked and started frantically moving furniture to block the door, but soon people arrived at the door. I saw the door being hit repeatedly. A group of about 7 or 8 men, who looked like the neighborhood tough guys, broke in quickly. Thor loudly argued that I had hidden the supplies and it had nothing to do with him. He also said he hadn't eaten for 3 days, but no one cared what he said. What came into view were the boxes of supplies, and since they wanted to burn the boxes for warmth, none had been thrown away, which matched the photos I provided. People who were starving wouldn't believe what he said. They started rummaging through the house, and naturally, they found nothing. Someone said this guy was really cunning, and he must have hidden the food somewhere. I think we need to give him a taste of his own medicine. After saying that, someone started hitting him. Thor couldn't fight against so many people and was hit on his face and body, crying out in pain. Nora came to stop it, but she was also kicked several times by the crowd. Then a more comedic scene happened. Thor dropped a few sausages and chocolates from his body. It turned out he had hidden food on himself, secretly from Nora. Now Nora was also upset, shouting, "You bastard, I haven't eaten for 3 days, and you still hid food. You're a bastard, even tricking me. Are you hiding food somewhere else? Where did you hide it, you bastard?" I was really satisfied watching this. They need to be given some sweet things to keep them from letting go. I had the employee who helped me hide some food in places at home, like under the bed storage cabinets that aren't usually moved. They found it quickly, and now everyone is even more convinced that Thor must have hidden a lot of things, and they beat him up even more, using their phones to check their shopping habits and asking where their supplies went. Thor really couldn't come up with anything, and he was soon beaten to the ground, panting heavily. Since they couldn't get anything out of him, they took all the supplies, even the cardboard boxes, and gradually dispersed. I looked at the guy lying on the ground, and my good friend also lay helplessly on the ground. I thought about how they had schemed against me, approached me step by step, harmed me, and climbed up by stepping on me. They even tried to harm my parents. In the previous life, Thor killed my parents, took my last food, and left me until I froze to death. Wait. Something flashed by. I seem to have forgotten something. If this life is the same as the previous one, then in the previous life, Thor should have already known about the extreme cold apocalypse. What about him in the previous life? I carefully recalled. He was a bit abnormal when the apocalypse came. He said that he borrowed money from friends to buy a house, and he used the family account's money of 20 or 30,000 later. He would sometimes go out saying he was looking for supplies to get lucky, and then disappear, returning only at night. He must have secretly hidden supplies somewhere and eaten them by himself. He's a very deep person, and I often don't know what he's thinking. So, in this life, would he have also hidden supplies? I felt a bit regretful for leaving him so early and going back to my parents' house. I should have stayed by his side and listened to his thoughts until the very end. Now, what should I do? How can I know what he's thinking? I can hear thoughts, but it only works when I'm face to face. I can't hear anything through video. Soon, Thor recovered at night and sneaked out of the house when Nora was asleep. My surveillance no longer worked, and he was about to escape. I was extremely anxious and didn't know where he was going. I soon stopped being anxious because he drove away, and the navigation in his car was logged into my account. I quickly saw his route. I saw the neighborhood, and due to the road, he drove very slowly. He headed east, toward the direction of the neighborhood where my parents used to live, and soon stopped at a neighborhood near my parents. I suddenly remembered, in the previous life, I saw him go out once with a key I didn't recognize. Now, recalling, he must have rented a house nearby, and he definitely secretly stored supplies for himself as a backup. He was waiting for me and my parents to die, and then he would live alone. Damn, how can I find him? I was so anxious that I scratched my head and rubbed my hair. Just then, my dad saw me and asked what was wrong. I told him the story, and my dad took my phone and looked at the location. Suddenly, he said, "Hey, that's Drake's neighborhood, daughter. Don't worry, I have a way." My father dialed the phone and said, "Hey, Drake, no need to thank me. I have something to talk to you about." My father communicated with Uncle Drake for a while, and I understood. Uncle Drake is my father's friend and partner. He is involved in real estate, and the residential area happened to be under their jurisdiction. This time, my father sent a lot of supplies to several old friends, including Uncle Drake. Soon, Uncle Drake sent me the surveillance footage. Fortunately, their residential area had its own generator for the surveillance system, but it was about to run out. Fortunately, the surveillance was still working. It seems like even heaven is helping me. I quickly determined the location where Thor entered the room and the building number, and then asked Uncle Drake to add me to the residential group. "You scumbag, you can't escape my grasp no matter where you go." In the new residential group, I exposed Thor's misdeeds one by one, and authorized everyone to go and claim the supplies. I believe someone will act soon, because many people's homes are running out of supplies, and they are also using the banner of justice, with the authorization of his legal spouse. Unfortunately, there was no surveillance, and I couldn't see the look of despair on the scumbag's face. Fortunately, Uncle Drake sent me a video. Since the surveillance was in the hallway, I only saw that after I sent the message, someone arrived quickly, broke open the security door, and then people started carrying away a lot of supplies in big bags. A few days later, Uncle Drake said he had someone from the neighborhood check on it, and Thor had already died of freezing and starvation in the rental house. I also checked the surveillance from my home, and Nora had also lain still and not moved again. A few days later, when I heard this news, I hugged my parents and cried and laughed, sobbing and saying, "Mom and Dad, I finally took revenge for you." Who knew my mother cried even harder than me, hugging me and saying, "My dear child, I know how hard you've been. Now everything can be let go." Since I was reborn and found out about their schemes, I had always felt like there was a stone on my heart. I couldn't go back home in my previous life, and I had starved to death in bed. Until this moment, I finally felt extremely relieved. From this moment on, I have truly been reborn. In the following days, the world's temperature continued to drop. reaching below -60 degrees as in the previous life. After about 2 months, the internet also went down, and we seemed to lose all connection with the world. The world was left with just our family of 3 plus Jojo Coco, the 2 cats. My father found an old radio, and we connected it to a battery, and it actually made a sound. It was the national radio, and all the broadcasts were reports from the country, encouraging people to find ways to get through the difficult times. It said that as long as we endured this period, there would be a bright future, and we would rebuild our home. This greatly encouraged us. My father listened to the radio every day for the latest news. However, there wasn't much news, just that the Meteorological Bureau was actively monitoring and trying to predict the upcoming weather and temperature. My mother was much more relaxed. Every day, she tried to cook in different ways, practiced yoga with me, and when she had time, she played with the cats, watched the TV dramas I downloaded for her. Life was more pleasant than before the disaster. After all, my parents used to worry about their business and employees every day. We experienced several more blizzards, and the temperature didn't rise for a long time. During this period, some people tried to break into the house, smash the door, and crash into the wall. Our anti-explosion door and wall remained unmoved. Later, some people tried to climb into the yard with a ladder, and we were all on edge. My father tightly held a watermelon knife by the door, and I also held a pepper spray and a boning knife behind him. However, our house was as solid as a fortress, and they couldn't get in. Eventually, they gave up and left. My father then started bragging about how reliable the renovation team he had chosen was. It had already been 3 months. I had no idea what would happen next or how long the disaster would last. In my previous life, I only survived for 3 months, relying entirely on the supplies from my parents' supermarket. If it weren't for that scumbag, my parents, and I might have lived longer. Even now, thinking about them still makes me angry, but thinking about their fate also brings me some relief, since I have been given a second chance to live. I will cherish every day now, every day. My mother and I push a shopping cart to select supplies from our own supermarket on the upper floor. I randomly pick ingredients, and my mother turns them into delicious food. My father is the one who carries the supplies for us. I also force my father to work out for an hour every day, and my mother practices yoga with me for an hour. Our 2 cats, Jojo Coco, also imitate our yoga moves. It's simply too cute. At night, we all sit by the fireplace, warm ourselves, and fall asleep huddled together by the fireplace. Sometimes we would go up to the second-floor terrace, which had long been covered in snow. Every time we went out, we had to clear the snow. Then we would look into the distance, and the sun was still as bright in the sky, but it seemed to have lost its warmth. At -60 degrees, even if you wore as many down coats as you could, after 10 minutes you would be shivering all over. But we never tired of it, and we often came to watch the sunrise, reminding us that we were still alive in this world. One day, I saw the white color in the distance beginning to reveal the original colors of the earth. I excitedly called my parents to come and see. My father quickly turned on the radio. The radio host's voice trembled as he said that the temperature was beginning to rise, and everyone should wait for the day when spring would return. The number of casualties from this disaster could no longer be calculated. But as long as there were people alive, our country was still there, and so was our hope. My father cried for the first time with such emotion, and my mother and I were already in tears. Let's see, the disaster lasted for 13 months in total. Later on, after the disaster, the survivors built their own homes. I used my voice to talk business with my father, doing building materials, and even met my lifelong love. Though these are another story. Story 2, late at night. The property management sent out a message. An aggressive patient has escaped from the psychiatric hospital next door and has entered our community. He is prone to severe violence. Everyone, please stay inside your homes and do not open your doors for anyone. At that moment, there was a loud banging on my front door. Help, help, he's coming for me. Please open the door and save me. In the early hours, the property management sent an alert in the group chat. The neighbors who were still awake began to get restless. What's going on? Are the security guards useless? How did they let a psychiatric patient in? We pay so much for property management fees every month. What are you doing? Totally useless. If something happens in the community, you won't be able to shirk responsibility. The property management quickly apologized in the chat. Sorry, homeowners. The security guard was also injured by the patient. We have already called the police. Everyone, please stay inside and do not go out. They attached a photo of the injured security guard. The right sleeve of the guard's uniform, starting from the shoulder, was completely soaked in blood. There was also a thick pool of blood on the ground. My heart skipped a beat. The wound on the guard's shoulder looked as if it had been torn open by something. The skin split and flesh exposed. Holy shit. This isn't some ordinary psychiatric case. It's like a mad dog. Everyone be careful, especially those coming home late at night. Be vigilant. At property management, what did the patient use to cause such a wound? It's not small. There was no reply from the property management for a while. I assumed they were busy dealing with the guard's injuries. Neighbors continued discussing among themselves for a while, but still no reply from property management. At property management, where are you? What does the patient look like? What is he wearing? You need to tell us, right? Any distinguishing features, male or female? What else could the features be? Must be wearing hospital clothes. Surely it's a man with that kind of strength. Still, the property management did not reply. I checked my phone for any recent news. There were no relevant reports, and the psychiatric hospital had not issued any notice about a patient escaping. Suddenly, there was a frantic knocking at my front door. Is anyone there? Please open the door, please. My heart raced. I tiptoed to the door and peeked through the peephole. A woman covered in blood was crouching at the door. Her face was filled with panic, and she kept glancing behind her. Wait, isn't that Aunt Paige from apartment 305 downstairs? Just then, footsteps echoed from the stairwell, pounding like a sledgehammer in my chest. Someone was coming. Aunt Paige's cries turned into soft sobs. Simone, Simone, you're home, right? Please, save me. He's really going to kill me. Her voice was filled with endless fear and pleading. Aunt Paige was always kind to others in the community. This past spring festival, when I couldn't go home, she even invited me to her place for dinner. No matter what, Aunt Paige couldn't be the escaped psychiatric patient. I couldn't just stand by and ignore her plea for help. Steeling myself as the footsteps neared, I flung the door open, grabbed Aunt Paige, and pulled her inside. Then quietly, I shut the door. Making not a sound, Aunt Paige breathed a sigh of relief, leaning against the door and gasping for air. Her arm was gruesomely wounded, the skin and flesh peeled back. The wound on Aunt Paige's shoulder looked similar to that of the security guards. I lowered my voice. Aunt Paige, go to the living room first. I'll bandage you in a moment. Did you run into that madman? Aunt Paige nodded, visibly shaken, her eyes rimmed with red. I hid behind the peephole of my door, which faced the hallway next to the fire escape. A pair of black leather shoes came into view. It was indeed the madman. His hospital gown was covered in fresh blood. He stood motionless at the fire escape, looking around aimlessly. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on a trail of blood on the floor. Then, with a fierce twist of his head and a contorted face, he charged towards me. I instinctively stepped back a few steps, covering my mouth, my pupils dilating in fear. My heart pounded uncontrollably in my chest, but the expected impact never came. All fell quiet outside. I decided to tend to Aunt Paige's wounds first. Aunt Paige, covering her face, sobbed quietly. That man is a lunatic. I went out to buy medicine for the old man and saw the property management's message, so I hurried home. Who would have thought he'd be in our building, on the 3rd floor? Aunt Paige explained that the hallway lights were off, and he stood there motionless. She didn't see him until she called for the lights to be turned on, only to find a bloodied man standing there. The moment he saw Aunt Paige, he charged at her like a madman. Fortunately, I dodged a bit. He only bit my arm. I was shocked as I spoke. Did he bite you? Aunt Paige nodded, grimacing in pain from the alcohol disinfectant. I grabbed a stick from the shoe cabinet and hit him with it, and that's when he let go of me. The madman was blocking the door. I couldn't get back to my apartment, so I had to escape upstairs. Thank you, Simone. I shook my head, my mind in turmoil, a bad feeling looming. Through the peephole, I noticed that the madman indeed didn't have any weapons. Aunt Paige's eyelids began to droop, and she yawned continuously. Aunt Paige, if you're tired, you should rest for a bit. She nodded and immediately fell asleep on the sofa, seemingly exhausted. I quickly took out my phone and messaged the group. The madman is in our building, now on the 4th floor. Aunt Paige on the 3rd floor was bitten. Everyone, be careful, don't go out. His aggressiveness is severe. The madman bites, like a rabid dog. As messages popped up rapidly in the group, I started to panic. I hurriedly opened Weibo to see if there were any unusual news reports. There was nothing. How strange. A violent patient has escaped, and there's no news at all. Thump, thump, thump. The door next door was knocked. It was 403. A young man with a very regular routine. He slept early and rose early, mentioning in the homeowners group that he would sleep by 10 p.m. and hoped the kids on the 5th floor wouldn't run around at night. That means he probably hadn't seen the group message. I didn't have his phone number or any direct contact. I had to add him as a friend in the homeowners group. Does anyone have the contact for 403? The madman is knocking on his door. Someone call him quickly, while I was messaging. The madman began to speak. Ugh, I'm in so much pain. Please help me. Open the door, will you? He was sobbing, yet his face was expressionless. Is anyone there? Please, open the door. He pressed his face tightly against the peephole of the neighboring door, observing the activities inside. I heard a roar coming from next door. Who is it? Who doesn't let people sleep in the middle of the night? I felt anxious, quickly checked my phone, and added me. The lights next door turned on. I saw the mentally ill man curling up a smile at the corner of his mouth. Help me. Please open the door and help me. It hurts so much. Kind-hearted owners in the group were also frantically tagging 403. A message popped up. 403 had accepted my friend request. I breathed a sigh of relief. I explained the whole situation to him. I cautioned him repeatedly. Do not open the door. Thank you. I won't open the door. Thank you, neighbors. I have seen the messages. Don't worry. I won't open the door. Then, the light next door dimmed again. The mentally ill man waited for a long time. Seeing that no one opened the door, he began to furiously bang on 403's door. Open the door, open the door, why won't you open the door? The insane pounding sounded like a hammer on my eardrum. It made me terrified. A few minutes later, seeing that no one opened the door, the mentally ill man turned his head towards me. If it weren't for the door blocking, I would have thought he saw me in that instant. I covered my mouth, staring intently outside the door, daring not to make a sound. Cold sweat slid down my back along my clothes. He reverted to his numb expression and stiffly walked towards me. Suddenly, he pressed his forehead against the peephole, and all I saw was darkness. I knew I couldn't move now. As soon as I left, he would definitely send someone inside. A chill ran up my spine, and I tightly pinched my palm to suppress the trembling in my body. I don't know how long it was before the mentally ill man turned and left. He walked towards the rooms at the end of the hallway, rooms 402 and 401. I deeply exhaled, my back drenched with cold sweat. I quickly reported the mentally ill man's direction in the owner's chat group, at 402 at 401. The mentally ill man is heading your way. Do not open the door. At this time, the neighbors began to show some dissatisfaction at management. 20 minutes have passed. Why haven't the police arrived yet? Did you even call them? I don't know if the management called, but I did. The police said they received many reports today. They'll come to our place soon. A lot of people called the police. A bad premonition grew stronger in my heart. Finally. There was some movement from the usually invisible management. The police have arrived at the management office. We will bring them upstairs soon. By the way, homeowners who are at home, don't go to sleep yet. The police will need to take statements, and any injured owners, we will take you to the hospital together. Finally, my anxious heart settled down. I leaned back on the sofa and let out a breath, patting Aunt Paige. Aunt Paige. The management is bringing the police over. They'll take you to the hospital soon. Aunt Paige didn't respond, and a sudden shock hit me. I reached up to check on her. Thank goodness, she was still breathing, but her body was burning hot. It seemed like she had a fever. I quickly tagged the management. At management, Aunt Paige in 305 has a fever. Can you take her to the hospital first? Okay, we'll come to pick her up soon. After leaving the group chat, I realized that Harrison from next door 403 had sent me several messages. Has someone in your house been bitten? Run and come to me. The property management isn't what it seems. They've mutated. It seems I'm too late in telling you this. Hurry over here. There's no time. They're about to come up. He sent me a video. The video was from the mental hospital next door. Something had happened, and a group of people in hospital gowns were running out wildly. One of the patients, just like the one in the building, lunged at someone and began to bite them ferociously. The one being bitten turned out to be a patient as well. Seeing this, only one thought came to my mind. Zombies. I'm an avid fan of horror novels. I've read countless books about zombie apocalypses. The unease I felt earlier also stemmed from that strange bite. The video from room 403 confirmed my worst fears. But what if it was all fake? Besides, since when do zombies have intelligence? I slowly turned to look at Aunt Paige on the sofa. Her body was twisting like an octopus. Then I heard many hurried footsteps from the staircase. I gritted my teeth and dashed out of my room. I'm here. Open the door. 403 seemed to be waiting right by the door. As soon as I stepped out, he opened his door and pulled me in. His expression was grave as he put a finger to his lips. Shh, don't speak yet. His home had a video doorbell, and we both looked outside. The property management had arrived, led by an injured security guard. But where was his wound? Only his sleeve, drenched in blood. Spoke of his past ordeal. His face was as white as paper, adorned with a deranged smile as if something pleasant had happened, and there were only 3 of them from the property management. No police were in sight. I took out my phone, intending to message the residents group to warn them. He shook his head at me and whispered, "The property management is in the group too. If they find out you know, they'll come for you first." His logic made sense. But I couldn't just watch my neighbors walk into danger, so I decided to warn the neighbors I was friends with. Saving even one was worth it. I quietly went into the room and called room 401. She was a nice mom with a kid. The call connected quickly. Simone, what's happening? I thought I heard the property management come up. Didn't I? Alba, listen to me. Do not open the door. It's not the property management. It's not. Then who is it? Alba's voice was slightly loud and trembled a bit. Thinking quickly, I decided not to mention zombies as she wouldn't believe it, so I changed my explanation. It's someone pretending to be insane. Just don't open the door. I gave the same warning to room 402. I hope they believed me. I went to the door and looked at the video doorbell. Somehow, my door had quietly opened a crack. The mutated ones in the hallway had disappeared. 403 quietly typed a message to me. The door was opened by your Aunt Paige. They all went inside. They're definitely looking for you. As if in response, I heard Aunt Paige's voice from inside my room. Simone, where are you? The property management has come with the police. Let's go to the police station together. Despite it being the height of summer, I felt a chill. The property management hadn't come with any police. Aunt Paige still mentioned the police, which could only mean one thing: she had mutated too. A wave of bitterness swept over me. Aunt Paige, such a kind person, suddenly. My phone began to vibrate frantically. It was a call from Aunt Paige. Fortunately, I had already muted my phone before my mental breakdown started. After the call ended, Aunt Paige bombarded me with messages. Simone, where have you gone? Aunt Paige is waiting for you at home. The police are waiting for you too. Why aren't you responding to my messages? My arm hurts so badly. Can you accompany me to the hospital? My palms were sweating, nearly causing me to drop my phone. She was trying to lure me out. If it were really Aunt Paige, she would have gone straight to the hospital. I didn't reply. Soon, some people emerged from my room. There was blood on Aunt Paige's arm, but no actual wound. Excitement was plastered on everyone's faces. They knocked on door 403. Hello, resident. The police are here. Please open the door. We covered our mouths tightly, staying silent. At that moment, my phone lit up again. It was Aunt Paige calling. She must have wanted to check if I was here. After a long time of knocking and no response, they moved toward the other end of the hallway. I quickly messaged rooms 401 and 402, warning them not to open their doors. Click, a door opened somewhere. Damn it, why didn't they listen? You finally arrived. See, just some folks from the property management. My wife kept saying you weren't from property management, but I told her she's just being paranoid. Hey, by the way, where are the police? It was Alba's husband. I closed my eyes hard, resigned. Risking your own life is one thing, but involving your family. The property management responded in a sharp, thin voice. The police will be here shortly. Let's talk inside. The moment the door closed, I heard a horrific scream. It was over. Room 402 sent me a message. Simone, Did you just hear that scream? They are definitely not from property management. Yes, don't open your door. Whatever you do. Harrison handed me a bottle of water, which I gulped down in one go. Now they're definitely onto you. We can't stay here. It's too dangerous. I nodded and tipped off room 401. They must already be holding a grudge against me. What should we do now? I'll call the police. Harrison hesitated but eventually nodded. I took out my phone, walked into a room, and dialed the number. After a long wait, someone finally answered. Hello, there's a mentally ill person in our community who has bitten and killed several people. The address is... Before I could finish, the police officer on the other end interrupted me. I know, we are currently... A piercing scream cut through my ears. Loud crashing noises followed from the other side and then silence. Then, the phone was picked up again. Hello, this is the police. Where are you? We're coming right over. I quickly hung up, my heart racing, almost jumping out of my throat. Harrison, observing my pale face, spoke. The police station has fallen too, hasn't it? I stiffly nodded. I'll notify them. Whether they believe it or not is up to them. At this moment, 402 sent another message, asking if he could come join us. He was very scared alone. Harrison nodded. The group chat was still in uproar. Some neighbors questioned whether the mentally ill person had been taken away by the property management. Others asked about the recent screaming, wondering if even the police couldn't control the mentally ill person. I took a deep breath and typed quickly, everyone, please don't go outside. Those people are not from the property management. 402, the screams just now were from 401. He opened his door and was killed by those posing as property management. 402, if you can run, do it now. I've already escaped the neighborhood. 402 is a young man named George, younger than both me and Harrison. Seeing his message in the group, I silently gave him a thumbs up. As I messaged him that he could come over, he arrived with a backpack filled with some food and water. The property management replied in the group, at 404 at 402, don't disturb the police comrades. Where are you now? I'll come find you." The screaming was just them watching a horror movie at home. The three of us exchanged looks. We weren't fools to fall for that. But many neighbors in the group still believed it. That's right. I know 402, he's a young guy who often jokes around. It's good that the police are here, now I can sleep peacefully. Property management, the police will come to take statements. Those who haven't slept yet speak up, we'll come up floor by floor. 402, don't believe them, they're not human. Run or hide well in your homes. Alright young man, stop joking, go play by yourself. Don't interfere with the police work. Following these comments, the group's residents began to criticize us both. Many residents expressed their willingness to assist the police. Property management, okay, no rush, we'll be there soon. I looked at Harrison. If these people have all mutated, we have even less chance of escaping. We must hurry and leave this neighborhood. Do you guys have a car? Harrison spread his hands. If I had a car, I would have run when they went to 401's place. Would I still be here? George scratched his head. My dad bought me a car? But I haven't gotten my license yet, so Harrison immediately got up to pack things. I can drive, let's go. Before the property management comes out, George looked a bit embarrassed. My keys are inside. I didn't bring them out. Me and Harrison. With a click, a door sounded, unusually loud in the silent corridor. The property management group had come out. 402 pulled out his phone and displayed a video. He had installed a surveillance camera at his door. The couple from 401 had clearly been infected, quietly following behind them, and the man was holding an axe. I felt tense inside. With a bang, the man began to smash 402's door with the axe. They clearly didn't believe 402 had already left. At this moment, George frantically clutched at his chest. Thank goodness I got out, otherwise I would surely have died inside. But if 402's door has been smashed, is 403 next? We need to leave quickly. 7. I pondered for a moment. Let's go to my place first. They just left there and probably won't come back. In an instant, 402's door had been broken down. The lead security guard chuckled. Young man, come out quietly, or else, we're coming to find you. Then, the group burst into the house. Let's go. Harrison immediately stood up, shouldered his already packed bag, and opened the door. We tiptoed back to our place. They didn't close the front door when they left. I swallowed hard and stopped George, who was about to close it. We can't close the door. They'll know we've come back. George's eyes widened, his voice trembling slightly. So, we just leave the door open? Yes. I nodded and headed straight for the bedroom. Harrison followed, patting George on the shoulder. Let's take a chance. I handed Harrison a baseball bat, and I grabbed a crowbar. Being a woman living alone, I always kept a crowbar and a baseball bat handy in the house. Fearing those incidents I read about online, George went to the kitchen and gathered a broom, a fruit knife, and some tape. He dismantled the broom head and taped the fruit knife to the handle. Harrison and I both gave him a thumbs up. Awesome. George smirked proudly at us. Don't underestimate me. I might have fought back in school. He pulled out his phone, his face suddenly changing. His voice was very low. They're coming. Several property management staff emerged from room 402 and headed our way. Once they entered the hallway, the camera outside room 402 couldn't capture them. We hid in the bedroom, locking the door tightly. We heard the property management knocking on the door of room 403. Hello, resident. Please open the door to cooperate with the police investigation. After a long while with no response, a loud bang startled me. Tensing every nerve in my body, they began to smash the door. The sound of the door being hammered felt like sharp knives piercing my heart, causing my heartbeat to race and fear to surge like a tide. Harrison comforted me by patting my shoulder and mouthing, "Don't be afraid." Soon, the noise outside ceased, replaced by their voices. Damn, they've run off again. Where to now? Aunt Paige spoke up. Let's head downstairs. You two go upstairs and check each floor. Then, the sound of scattered footsteps suggested they might have left. All three of us breathed a sigh of relief, but nobody dared to make a move, unsure if they had gone far. Wait a bit longer, just a bit longer. Suddenly, a news alert popped up on our phones. Breaking news, a terror incident in the city center. Criminals indiscriminately biting pedestrians. Residents, please hurry home and do not go outside. Those already out should return home as quickly as possible and stay away from anyone acting abnormally. Awaiting military rescue. The city center had fallen. Suddenly, all three of our phones vibrated simultaneously. A message received. City, a biochemical crisis outbreak. All residents should stay home and avoid going out. Residents outside should return home as quickly as possible and stay away from any abnormal behaving individuals. Awaiting military rescue. It must be a message from the government. My heart sank. The city had fallen. The group chat erupted again. Everyone was posting the messages they received. Some were panicking, others thought it was a prank, and some even wondered if today's psychiatric patients might turn into zombies. Messages flooded in like a tide, too fast to keep up with. Suddenly, the flow of messages in the group chat stopped abruptly. The property management has imposed a silence. Dear residents, do not panic. Due to an emergency, the police have already left. No need to take any statements. Please stay inside your homes and wait for rescue. Then George pulled us into a small group chat. It included neighbors who had previously questioned the property management in the larger group chat, including the three of us. There were 7 people. I knew 2 of them. They were a couple who taught at a high school. One person often worked overtime. I knew he worked late because around 10:30 each night, you could hear him singing courageously in the hallway. There was another person I wasn't very familiar with. George shared a video from his door's surveillance camera in the group. The property management staff and the couple in 401 have been attacked and mutated. We must escape. 1404. I've always felt there was something off about them. We haven't even seen any mentally ill people, yet they kept asking for statements. 1404 referred to the teacher couple. 1404. What should we do now? We have a car we can use. George, I have a car too. Let's meet in the garage once the situation is clear. 2101. Do we really need to leave? I feel safer at home. Zombies aren't that scary. I trust the military. George, did you see the axes in their hands? They can break in even if you don't open the door. Moreover, the more people that get infected in the building, the more dangerous it becomes for the survivors. Harrison, if you don't want to leave, we won't force you. But we'll meet at the garage at 4:30, 8:03, count me in, I'm leaving too. I glanced at the time, it was now 4:00, we had half an hour. Harrison was sweating from his forehead. I could tell he was also nervous. Let's wait a bit longer. We'll leave at 4:20 and get the car keys from George's place first. Okay. In the larger group chat, the property management spoke again. At everyone, good news. The rescue team has arrived. Please pack your things and prepare to leave with us. Since we're not sure if there are any infected individuals, we will personally come to confirm. Just stay inside your homes. The property management lifted the silence. Wow, that's great. Please come to our floor first. What? You're on the 20th floor. They'll definitely start from the lower floors. Property management, we'll start from the bottom up. No need to rush. What floor are you on now? Please hurry. 3rd floor. I frowned deeply. If we wait until 4:30, most of the people in the building would have been infected. We wouldn't have a chance to escape then. I lowered my voice. We need to leave now, or we really won't be able to get out. Yes, let's go now. Harrison notified everyone in the small group chat. Change of plan. Meet at the garage in 10 minutes. They've checked the 4th floor. They'll definitely head to the 5th floor next. Now is the best time to leave. I took a deep breath and opened the bedroom door. In an instant, my hair stood on end, and cold sweat poured down. I bit my tongue hard to suppress the scream that almost escaped. I quietly stepped back a few paces. The crowbar in my hand felt sticky from the sweat. George bumped into my back. What's going on? Stop here. George's words were cut off. I think he saw it too. Under the moonlight, the security guard from the property management company sat on the sofa, staring straight at us with a malicious grin on his face. I knew it. I guessed right. You rats are indeed hiding here, he sneered. A tense atmosphere spread among the 3 of us. Suddenly, his face underwent a horrifying transformation, splitting open in the middle to reveal sharp teeth and a twisted tongue, resembling a monster from a nightmare. Without wasting any words, the security guard charged towards us. I swallowed hard, surprisingly finding myself calm in the face of danger. Should be fine, we have weapons, I thought. George, quick to react, pushed me aside and stood in front with a mop handle sharpened into a makeshift spear. With a determined look, he timed his strike perfectly, plunging the makeshift spear into the gaping maw of the security guard as he lunged at us. Quick, Harrison and I didn't hesitate. We dashed forward, wielding a crowbar and a baseball bat, and greeted the mutated head of the security guard with fierce blows. The air filled with a suffocating smell of blood and foulness. Time seemed to stretch on until the guard twitched a few times and then lay still on the ground, his head a pulpy mass of black, viscous flesh mixed with thick blood, assaulting our stomachs and eyes. Overcome by nausea, the 3 of us started to retch uncontrollably. Disgusting, just too disgusting. These mutants are revolting, I gasped. Harrison took a big gulp of mineral water, breathing heavily. Let's go, the stench is overpowering. It won't be long before his kind picks up the scent. George kept an eye on the movements of other property staff within the group. They had reached the 5th floor, presenting us with the best opportunity to leave, elevator or stairs. George suggested the elevator, thinking it would be faster and safer. Harrison and I disagreed. If the elevator made a sound, the property staff would surely know someone was leaving and might even follow us down. We could be met with their eerie faces as soon as the elevator doors opened. George hesitated, convinced by my reasoning, but first, we needed to retrieve keys from his apartment. Inside, everything was a mess, but fortunately, the car keys were still there. We tiptoed into the stairwell, George leading with his makeshift spear. Fortunately, we encountered no dangers along the way. By 4:15, we reached the underground garage where 2 teachers were waiting. They sighed in relief upon seeing us. "Are the others coming?" they asked just as a burly man ran up behind them, waving. "I'm here, not too late, am I?" It was the owner of Unit 803, a muscular man named Jason, who reassured us with his presence. Only the workaholic from 2101 was left. George texted him in the group chat. "Are you still coming? Just wait, I'll be right there." At 5:25, the breathless workaholic from 2101 arrived, carrying a backpack. Harrison's impatience flickered across his face. "Let's go. 3 of us in one car, the 4 of you in another. Any objections?" Sierra, one of the female teachers and part of the couple, asked. "Where should we head now? Our city has fallen. We'll have to head to another city. Let's just get going first. The highway entrance is definitely jammed. Let's take the national road instead." Without further discussion, everyone got into the car and left. "Keep in touch via the group chat if anything comes up." After getting into the car, I couldn't stop scrolling through the news on my phone. The more I read, the colder my heart felt. These mutants were like a plague, swiftly sweeping across the nation. City after city was announcing their downfall, urging residents to fend for themselves, to survive as best as they could while waiting for military rescue. The scale of this disaster wasn't due to anything else. It was because these mutant zombies were intelligent. They could disguise themselves as humans. They could use weapons. I closed my eyes in despair. At that moment, all 3 of our phones lit up. It was another message from the authorities. "Dear citizens, be vigilant of those around you. The mutants can disguise themselves as humans. Please do your utmost to survive until the military can rescue you." I sighed and tossed my phone aside. Survive as best as you can. But you have to be able to survive in the first place. Now, it was impossible to tell mutants from normal people. I spoke weakly. "Do any of you have a clue how to distinguish the mutants?" George shook his head, while Harrison pondered for a moment before speaking. "Their pupils don't react to light." I sat up straight, supporting myself on the back of his chair, and asked, "How do you know?" He tapped his own eye. "Observation." "I've been watching them," George exclaimed loudly. "Harrison, you're really something else. I'll let the group know right away." Harrison, one hand on the steering wheel, held George back with the other. "Don't, those 4, I don't quite trust them." George and I were both puzzled. "I suspect there might be mutants among them. Not sure, so don't send it yet." My heart, which had just settled, was on edge again. What exactly are these mutants aiming for? Why are they still disguising themselves among us? A message came in from the group. 2101. "Jason says the car is out of fuel. Let's refuel at the next station and grab some supplies." George, got it. The gas station was deserted. It seemed all the attendants had fled. Harrison and Jason stayed with the car to refuel. The rest of us entered the gas station store to stock up on supplies. Suddenly, the lights in the supermarket went out, but within a second, they were all back on again. George, touching the back of his head sheepishly, said, Sorry, my bad. I accidentally hit something." Harrison sent a message. "Jason's fine." At that moment, whether from bad food or something else, a sharp pain gripped my abdomen. I desperately needed to use the restroom. "George, could you accompany me to the bathroom? My stomach hurts." Sierra stepped forward. "Simone, I'll go with you. Let them keep gathering supplies here." Having a girl accompany me seemed more convenient, so I nodded. A cold breeze brushed my arms, raising goosebumps. I rubbed my arms. "Sierra, shall we go together? We might not stop again for a while." Just then, I saw John from 1201 running towards us. "Wait for me. I need to use the bathroom too." The bathroom was eerily empty and quiet. After leaving the stall, I saw Sierra standing by the window with her back to me, seemingly doing something. I tapped her on the shoulder. "Let's go, Sierra." As I turned around, I saw John standing right in front of us. Sierra sounded a bit upset. "This is the ladies' room, John. What are you doing here?" John rubbed his hands together and chuckled nervously. "I'm scared, Sierra. I don't dare go to the men's room alone. Just stay here. I'll be right out after I go," he said, trying to squeeze past us. At that moment, I tightly gripped the crowbar in my hand and swung it hard at John's head. "Run." I grabbed the bewildered Sierra and we dashed out of the restroom. Behind us, a scream unique to the infected echoed. John followed us out of the restroom. Seeing several people armed outside, he seemed confused for a moment, then he turned around, trying to run back into the restroom. Think you can run? Not so easy. Jason picked up a brick from the ground, twirled it for momentum, and smashed it hard onto John's head. John collapsed with a cry, black, foul-smelling fluid oozing from his mouth. Harrison wasn't idle either, wielding his weapon and rapidly turning John into a pulp. Sierra's eyes were red, tightly clutching Isaac's sleeve. What's going on here? These were the strategies the three of us had discussed in the car. George pretended to accidentally turn off the light. In the moment the light came on, their pupils would surely contract due to the brightness. I was observing from the side. Unfortunately, John's pupils didn't contract, but to prevent harming the wrong person, we had to make sure, if the infected were following us, they would certainly bite any individual who was alone, infecting the normal people in our group one by one. When I saw John enter the restroom, I knew he was about to act, so I quickly sent Harrison a message. As for when John got infected, we don't know. It might have been before he joined the group or afterwards. Harrison spat on the ground. Let's go. After getting into the car, we received an official message, telling us to head to a temporary shelter in S City. George and I both looked at Harrison. He had now become our backbone. He nodded. Let's go. Along the way, we used Harrison's method. We identified many infected disguised as humans. After all, by flashing the high beams, we could clearly see if their pupils changed. If we encountered a lone infected, we would pick up our weapons and deal with it. If unfortunately, we encountered a group of them, we'd just hit the gas and try to run them down. That was the best we could do, so we drove through the night. The next evening, we arrived at the shelter in S City. Long lines were formed in front. Everyone was waiting to be checked before they could enter the shelter. I watched their method of inspection. I found it strange. Why not check the pupils or use other methods we didn't know? Instead, they were taking saliva samples like a PCR test, even if saliva could reveal the infection. Who knows how long that would take? George spoke up. Could it be that they still don't know how to identify the infected? Should I go inform their superiors? A bad feeling began to surge inside me. They couldn't possibly not know how to distinguish the infected. The biohazard had been out for 3 days. We ordinary people had discovered a method of identification. The officials couldn't still be unaware, could they? No, something was off. I looked at Harrison's furrowed brow. He seemed to share my thoughts. We're leaving first. We followed Harrison and quietly left the long line. Back in the car, 2 teachers ran towards us, out of breath. What happened? We were almost there. Why did you leave? Harrison explained to them. I suspect that the person in charge of this shelter is an alien species. Their goal is to deceive unmutated normal people into entering. Both teachers widened their eyes in disbelief. No way. Harrison pinched the bridge of his nose. It's just a guess. Let's get moving now. Sierra hesitated, feeling that we might be overthinking it. Isaac also felt that the recent days of rushing around had left him on edge. He wanted to trust the officials. Do you guys really have absolute certainty that they've been invaded by aliens? I shook my head. It's just intuition and some strange behaviors that make me suspect. There's no confirmation that the people in the base are infected, but we chose to leave just to be safe. Isaac shook his head, his voice choked up. If that's the case, we choose to stay. So, they returned to the long queue. I wanted to persuade them, but Harrison stopped me. Let it be. It's their choice. 14. From a team of 7, now only 4 of us remained. Where should we go? George raised his hand. Let's head to the countryside in H City. My family has a house there. It should be safe for now. Let's go there. Jason hesitated for a moment before speaking. He expressed his wish to return to his own hometown. His parents were still there, so Jason left too, and now it was just the 3 of us. Perhaps it was because our teammates had left. Perhaps it was the shattering of hopes. None of the 3 of us felt like talking. 2 days later, we saw the news. The survivor base in S City had been occupied by aliens. It happened during an inspection. A resident noticed the inspector drooling over his hand when he asked about it. It turned out the inspector was an alien. He bared his fangs and bit him on the neck. I silently prayed, hoping Sierra and Isaac could escape. 2 days later, we arrived in the countryside of H City. We settled down temporarily. Fortunately, we had enough supplies, and there was land to grow vegetables. Food was not a worry. Our daily routine was to eat, wander around the countryside, and keep an eye on the news. We stayed there for over a month, the government announced. The alien species has been completely eradicated. The crisis is over. We didn't immediately leave. Instead, we waited another 3 months. Only after there were no more abnormalities in the news did we decide to head home. We didn't go straight back to a city. Instead, we detoured through several cities. Only after ensuring safety did we return to a city. 15. This time, the entrance to the city was surrounded by armed police. They wore special anti-bite suits. Each one checked our pupils with a flashlight before letting us in. Seeing the scene, the three of us finally breathed a sigh of relief. Back home, it took us a week to tidy up the house. Half a year later, life returned to normal. We three neighbors became good friends, often going out to eat and dine together. I also switched to a higher-paying job, though it often required overtime. Colleagues often teased me, "Simone, you should get a boyfriend now." I just laughed it off, but now I might actually have a boyfriend. He's a guy I met while doing business outside. He's been incredibly attentive to me. One rainy evening, he got completely soaked just to walk me home. I invited him over to my house to shower. My best friend teased me, "Simone, you naughty thing. Are you thinking of doing something?" What a misunderstanding. I swear, I was just trying to thank him. I didn't mean anything by it. Besides, it wouldn't be good if he caught a cold from getting soaked. I was cheerfully texting my best friend when I didn't notice that he had finished showering and came out of the bathroom. "Simone, do you have a towel I could use to dry my hair?" I scratched my head awkwardly. I had forgotten such an important thing. I quickly grabbed a towel and handed it to him. Just as he took it, lightning streaked across the sky outside. Under the bright flash, I could clearly see that his pupils didn't change at all. My heart skipped a beat, and my body stiffened. Not again. I quietly took out my phone and messaged our trio's group chat, "Help, there's an alien in my house. Don't worry, we're on our way."